common issues that's happening in 2021?
For small businesses?
Small businesses.
All right, well, there's actually quite a few, but one of the consistent themes that has been happening for years and is just more important today than ever before is access to capital. That continues to be the theme.
Well, we have a special guest from NewTek, and not just any ordinary guest, it's the CEO of NewTek. You know about
Of course,
that?
of course I know about Barry. You got Barry on the show?
We got Barry on the show, guys. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another BizTalk show, and today we have a very special guest from NewTek. It's the CEO, and we titled it as "The Message from the CEO." But it's not just a message from him. It's really about what that company is actually doing to help the business community in the nation. So before we speak to Barry, Ryan, you worked with NewTek.
Yep.
A
Yeah,
lot.
NewTek
Can you
has
tell
been
me a little bit about what they actually do and maybe from your own experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll let them describe actually what they do in detail. So I'm not yet on payroll as a salesperson for NewTek, but we've been working with NewTek for quite a number of years. They're a big supporter of the small business community, and they've worked alongside the Small Business Development Center for many years. And they provide a huge toolbox of resources that small businesses can use. Things from, most common ones, are access to capital, which is a big problem. It's one of the largest problems that most businesses face is making sure that they have sufficient cash flow and capital to run and grow their businesses. And NewTek has creative solutions to be able to overcome the hurdles that they might face with a traditional lender.
I'm gonna have to ding you for that because I've worked with you for so long, and
Yeah.
I never heard of NewTek until I bought a studio, until I worked with Gibraltar,
Yeah.
and somehow NewTek fell on our lap with helping us with the PPP loan, and I would say that was one of the best experiences I've had. And so I want to get you on that one because you should have introduced me to NewTek a long time ago.
I apologize about that.
So we have on the show we have Barry Sloane, CEO of NewTek, and we want to hear. I'm sure everyone want to hear from Barry. So so let's give some context. I'm not going to pretend that I know any numbers here. You have all the stats because of SBDC and everything else. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in the small business world right now in the nation.
Yeah, absolutely. So as of the latest numbers from Census, there's roughly about 30 million small businesses in existence right now, and roughly 31% of those have had some type of fatal, bump in the road as a result of the pandemic. But nevertheless, there are still roughly 60 million jobs that are being supported today by small businesses. That's almost half of the American labor workforce.
Wow.
So that's a pretty significant number.
So Ryan, let's get some insight from Barry.
Yes.
Barry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna get right into it. I mean, how can business owners best prepare themselves to find the right solutions for their employees? And what questions should they be asking? Something I should have been doing too.
Especially as it relates to healthcare and benefits.
Yeah.
Well, I think the business landscape, just like the economy in the world, rapidly changing. And that's where NewTek comes in as an organization to be able to chat with business owners, whether there are 2 employees or 2,000. That's kind of where we bucket things. And it's difficult because a person that has a 2 or 3 employee company is run quite differently than if it's 200 to 300. And what we've been able to do over the course of 22 years is build out the key core processing solutions, such as health insurance and benefits, financing solutions, payment solutions, insurance solutions, and today, most importantly, technology, because there isn't a business today that isn't run on a technological platform. So business owners should be thinking about 3 things broadly. How do I grow my revenues? How do I reduce my expenses? And how do I reduce my risk? So if they sort of focus on those 3 large questions with their vendors or providers or partners, they're going to improve their business a lot. And that's what we do with our customers.
That actually brings an interesting point that something you mentioned. Having a business model, especially today, that is technology first. That pivot where we're having to focus on making sure that my e-commerce or my web presence is strong to continue to grow my business. And large companies have definitely the budget to make quick pivots and shift cash, but small businesses who don't have those resources, how can they use NewTek to make sure that their web presence is as strong as possible?
That's a great question.
So I think it's important to note that today's technologist is yesterday's accountant and lawyer. That technologist for a business is equally as important, whether it's an accounting firm, a law firm, even something as germane as a restaurant. Businesses today run on technological platforms. So whether it's the website, a website that performs an e-commerce function, whether the staff is using the internet, accounting software, the way we fit in is we help business owners afford the solutions that the GEs, the Microsofts, the IBMs of this world are able to utilize, not too dissimilar from what Amazon or Microsoft Azure does with big companies. We do that with smaller companies. So smaller companies allowing us to manage their hardware and software in our data center 24/7. We give them the ability to run their technological platform all the time, make sure it's running, it's backed up, it's stored, has disaster recovery if they want it, and that it's affordable. A small business cannot afford a CTO or a CIO. They can't afford to buy the hardware and the software. Therefore, they come to us and we manage it for them in our environment. By the way, we also could manage it if they want to keep the servers and the hardware in their environment, or if they want it in Azure or Amazon or some other data center. So we're agnostic. We are a solutions provider. Yeah.
That's huge.
That's huge. I don't know. I just literally signed up to insurance. You mentioned about insurance. I went to NewTek for the whole PPP stuff in the beginning, and then I work with one of the colleagues, Vice President Nolan, and he's saying, oh, Kwa, we also offer you some insurance. It's like totally outside what from the loan, the finance stuff. It's like insurance. What do you mean? And then I see him mentioning about technology, because we always have technology growth issues around it, and I'm seeing like how they're doing finance, they're doing insurance, they're doing technology, and in my opinion, I never heard of an organization that actually does that.
It's almost quite literally a toolbox.
It is
full of all the different things that a small business might need in order to grow.
Absolutely,
it's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and talking about that, the current marketplace that we're in now, the pandemic that a lot of small businesses are facing, it makes it extremely hard for businesses to plan. Whether it's just make any type of forecast on how much cash reserves that they should have, what kind of sales that they should be expecting. If you were a small business owner, what advice or what would you do for your own business to make sure that you can better handle the uncertainties of, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. We don't know if the vaccines are going to work, if there's a second round or third round coming around. So should businesses have a line of credit? Should they have certain days of cash on hand? What advice would you look for? What would you give small businesses?
Yeah, I think the question you're asking is a very solid question, and it is the most important question for any business owner, whether it's Amazon or a little business with 2 or 3 employees, and that is, do I have staying power? So what crushes a business is operational or financial overhead. So if all of a sudden you borrowed money and you can't make the P&I payment, you're done. If you can't manage fixed expenses and being able to keep them as variable as possible in a revenue downturn, you're done. So the key is to be able to make sure the bet is measured, always expect the unexpected, make sure you have those resources. Businesses that are starting up that don't have resources to rely upon if their budget or business fails are the most risky. Most risky from our perspective of providing them funding, as well as the business operator, because it kind of stinks to donate a year or two of your life, put a 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 into a business, and all of a sudden you have this perfect storm known as a pandemic, which was never supposed to happen, right?
Exactly.
Pandemic thing. We've never had a pandemic before here. And all of a sudden, the concept of not being in business for 3 months, 6 months, a year, unheard of. I'll tell you a quick story. I was approached by my chief risk officer in February of last year. He said, Barry, we got this coronavirus thing. He goes, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle it? He goes, what if New York shuts down? And in my infinite wisdom, I said, New York will never shut down. However, I said, everyone's got to have a laptop and have the ability to work remotely. We got our CTO on the phone. We had to purchase used laptops because there were not new laptops available. We bought 200 used laptops. We had about 250 that were in use at the time. So everybody was remote. And when everything shut down in March, we were able to switch over and everything worked. But I wasn't going to take the risk that people couldn't get into an office environment, wouldn't be able to work out of their home. And that was lucky or smart, but it's also, it goes to the heart of the question you just asked. You've got to have survivability. Even if it means you don't try to grab for that total brass ring, you don't push it, always expect the unexpected, because most likely it will happen.
But you mentioned something right now that you bought these additional laptops, which means that you had available cash at your disposal. A lot of small businesses sometimes don't have that because they don't have the right financing vehicles in place. So something like a line of credit, is that something that you would advise a business to have as just in case money, emergency money? And if so, how much of a line should they have?
You shouldn't be in business or start up a business unless you've got the cushion to be able to survive an adverse consequence. So I would argue that if you're running a business very thin and you can't get a line of credit, you really shouldn't be in the business. It's too dangerous. Again, you should try to get a line of credit on the signature, on your credit, be able to borrow maybe against your home. A lot of smaller early stage businesses will borrow against the equity in a home, if it's a small amount on a credit card, on a signature, because you got to be able to survive that downturn. And the reality of the current economic dilemma that we have, this isn't the problem with the economy or credit. The economy was chugging along, 3% unemployment, great growth, wage growth at the bottom coming up. All of a sudden you got a pandemic, boom. Then you got GDP down 37%. What are you going to do? So the businesses that have been able to bridge themselves through the pandemic, whether through government aid, government support, or their own resources, are the ones that are surviving. And the interesting thing is, because so many businesses will go out that were not well managed, that didn't position themselves for the bump, the businesses that did will reap the benefit due to less competition.
Correct. Yeah.
I guess for bouncing off of that, it's that, I've always heard about that or know that when you don't need the money, that's when you go after the line of credit, right? And I think that's extremely true. I for one, being a business owner, I went out to get my line of credits through the big banks, held on to it, pay your yearly fee. Never really used it until I actually really needed it,
Exactly.
And then pandemic definitely needed it, and luckily I had it. Otherwise, I would have shut down myself. Yeah. So I have a question for you, Barry. I have a friend of mine. He opened up. He did a $1.5 million restaurant business out in New York, right? He got out of that location because of lease issues, where they moved into a new location, and opened up a new, got the new restaurant going again. Obviously, pandemic hit, and he's kind of in a tough spot. But he doesn't have a line of credit. But he's proven himself that he created a great restaurant business for himself. He sells ramen noodles and Japanese style. It's really, really phenomenal. But he's struggling at the moment. So what would you advise someone, a restaurant owner like him, that would do in his position?
It's tough because he's already in a tough spot.
Yeah.
He's got to think about how does he get to be standing when the sun comes up again. And even in New York City, the sun will come up again.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to keep himself very lean, stretch out his creditors if he can, to make sure that he is in business, I'm going to say, in May. By the time May rolls around, and by the way, this could be totally wrong, but the amount of people getting vaccinated is growing. Johnson & Johnson is coming on stream. Lockdowns are becoming less politically interesting for politicians. In other words, where Cuomo and de Blasio thought they were being famous for locking things down, they're now going the other way. So that his New York City location will be viable, but he's got to measure his bet from now until then. Obviously, he should also avail himself of PPP funds, New York City money, New York State money. There are pools of capital available. That's what he should be doing at this point.
That actually also reminds me, talking about government regulation. So as years come and go, society evolves, the economy evolves, and so do a lot of additional regulations. So for a business owner who is very focused on running their business, growing their business, and in some cases even just making their business pivot to the point where they can survive, they don't have time to keep up to date with all the different regulations that are out there. I know NewTek offers services on the compliance side as well. So what advice would you give a small business to be able to stay compliant with all the new updates in the potential case that there is an audit?
Well, thinking about a small business and compliance, the thing that really comes to mind most really is managing labor and labor laws consistent with local and state regulations. So, things like minimum wage, workman's comp, family leave. The business owners today need to have a payroll solution and an HR consultative provider, because most of them can't afford a head of HR, and they're not going to be doing their own internal payroll. It's not cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got to pick a payroll provider that can answer their questions or gives them the software that enables them to be very well kept up to whatever the current labor regs are, rules, relating to employment letters, employee handbook, things of that nature, things that are kind of mundane, but actually are really important. And in today's world, these things are readily affordable. 15 years ago, you go to your lawyer. You want an employee handbook? Give you one for $5 or $10 grand. Today, you can get that through your payroll solutions provider. We do that, and we work very closely with our business owners to make sure that they've got somebody that they can contact if they have a question relating to, labor regulations, as well as managing health and benefits.
Yeah, OSHA is something we don't want to mess around with. And as an SBDC consultant, I see a lot of businesses who are just in clear violation of a lot of different compliance issues. And sometimes they're playing roulette. They don't know when they're going to get caught. And when most of us who don't have the right things in place until we actually need them, like you were talking about a little while ago with the line of credit.
Yep.
If we get in on a good foundation early on, we'll have it available to us when we actually do need it.
That's right. I want to touch. You mentioned about going to the technology side, Barry. Well, we work very closely with Fortune 500 companies like EY. We work with Daimler and these companies too, and they talk so much about digital transformation. I mean, I know small businesses or medium-sized businesses they just focus on digital transformation and helping all these organizations out. Does NewTek go into that realm? I know you touch on it, but you support the back end of it. But do you go into advise and consult on digital transformation? And if not, are you going to plan to go step further on that?
Yeah, I mean, in the area to that is in certain pockets, yes, such as digital marketing. We help businesses today with digital marketing plans, how to access customers through social media, SEO, web design, outreach, email campaigns, outbound telemarketing, etc. We also help them digital transformation with respect to housing and making sure all their data is safe and secure and they can access it 24/7 on demand wherever they want to be. We also help them with billing, just simple concept of billing and invoicing and how to get paid. We help them with that as well. So there isn't an aspect of business today that isn't surrounded by some form of what I'll refer to a digitized transformation, whether it's HR, whether it's payables, receivables, accounting, marketing, sales, HR, hiring, firing. Yeah, so we do cover that within our silos.
Awesome. I think that's extremely important to know because it's always a question, when we have our meetings with the chambers and with our members and stuff, and especially a startup. This is an opportunity to get to know a company like NewTek to help them. At the very least, pick up a phone call and give them a call and really ask the right questions. Or ask them questions that they might not know to get answers from.
Exactly. Sometimes I don't know what I really need until I actually discover it on my own. But I've seen from the Small Business Development Center a bigger hurdle with businesses that are a little more established, that have been doing things, the paper and pen method for years, and now they're forced to go into this digital transformation, and sometimes they're causing more damage than good, because their web presence is not set up correctly, and there's a lot of security breaches or a lot of inefficiencies.
That's right. Well, that's what E&O comes in.
Exactly. And sometimes even in marketing, I just for having a website doesn't mean that my marketing is done. A lot of websites look outdated.
100%.
Yeah, so that's
totally
something.
agree. Totally agree.
I definitely want to explore that a little bit more with NewTek.
We are almost out of time, Ryan. Do you have any other questions?
No, I have a million questions, but
I don't want to keep Barry on too long.
Yeah.
Barry, do you have any final things you want to say to the audience that they should know?
Yeah, I think the most important thing about business is to know what you don't know, and then know to go to the right sources for that. I mean, in today's world, how lucky we are to have the internet, where you can pretty much learn whatever it is you need to learn, either self-taught or by reading, or to have the internet direct you to who you need to go to. And I think that running a business is not easy. It's complicated. It's getting more complex. And that business owners today should really think through what their objectives are, how are they going to accomplish those objectives, do they have the right structure to accomplish those objectives, and importantly, from their own personal standpoint, are these the objectives that they should be focusing on? And you guys mentioned sort of businesses getting caught in the concept of, this is what we've always done, this is what I've always done, this works, I'm afraid to make a change. If you're afraid to make a change in this world, you probably should just go get a government job somewhere.
100% agree.
Not be an entrepreneur, not be a business owner, because this world is changing so rapidly. What really worked a couple of years ago doesn't necessarily work today. So you kind of got to be on your game, and you got to be willing to make those changes.
Correct.
I think that was very valuable advice, and coming from you, Barry, I think it goes a long way. Barry, everybody, thank you so much, Barry.
Guys, I appreciated the conversation and look forward to working with
Awesome.
you and your clients and being more helpful in the future.
Make sure that you guys stay tuned to our website, to our social media on Facebook. And as always, remember to join. There's a lot of value with becoming a member of the USPAC. And for a limited time, it is absolutely with no cost to you, with just nothing but benefits with no cost.
And we can't, we can't express that enough. There's, if you go into the site, into uspaacc-ne.com, when you click onto becoming a member, there's a promo code called Community 2021. Use that code. It's absolutely free. You want to join as soon as possible because we're constantly creating content. We're constantly onboarding new vendors and new partners with us that could help your business grow. And if you're looking at this at a content right now, I'm assuming that you're going to need some help with your business somewhere, somehow. So
I actually want to plug something in there real quickly. There was an article that I read in Entrepreneur Magazine that came out literally about 2 weeks ago, and it said one of the largest problems that a lot of businesses are facing in the current climate, aside from access to capital, is networking, live, networking events. And what we're going to be doing in the next couple of months is bringing you digital networking, and as many possibilities to meet other people to grow your business.
So with that, again, subscribe to YouTube. Stay in touch with us on Facebook. We are trying our best to get more active on Instagram and LinkedIn. And see you next time.